And welcome once again to another episode of the Horizon Roundtable. This is the Horizon League Tournament Motor City Madness Edition. I am Bob McDonald. I am on Twitter at Bob McDonald, and I am on. You can catch me every week at campuspressbox.com. I am joined, as always, by Jimmy Lemke.
Hello, everybody from the Horizon League.
All right, and Jimmy is at PantherU on Twitter and at PantherU.com. We have ourselves a guest. We have Carrick Jones again.
Our first repeat guest, by the way.
Our first repeat guest. Yes, Carrick Jones. Carrick Jones is also. We have him also working with us over at Campus Press Box. He's actually going to be putting together something for us on Motor City Madness for the site this week.
Yep.
And thank you once again for doing that. That's gonna be some good stuff for us.
Yeah, I tell you what, I had a fun time down there. I think I've spent more time in Joe Louis Arena the last 2 days than I have my whole life. But it was a fun time, good atmosphere. Kind of surprised how well they did with the crowd today, but there was a lot of people from a lot of U of D fans there.
Okay.
I would say more than a regular home game. So.
Interesting.
And
I'll build the program good by that.
All right. And remember, you can visit fourlights.fm. That's where we're hosted the podcast, and you can subscribe wherever good podcasts are found. As you can guess, we've got a lot to get through. First two rounds of Motor City Madness are through, but first, a little bit of sad news. Actually, a lot of bit of sad news. Unfortunately, Chip Hooper, who is the father of Oakland's Max Hooper, passed away. And he had been battling cancer for a while, had a stroke. He, really, really emotional senior night. If anybody saw that on ESPN, real emotional reunion between father and son. Unfortunately, he lost his battle over the weekend. So our condolences go out to the Hooper family and the Oakland family, the Oakland team as well.
I feel like we're spending too much time in this podcast's first season, saying goodbye to people after this. It's rough, and you feel for people, but I mean it's just part of life. So big apologies from us. I know we have a lot of Oakland fans that listen to the podcast. So, it goes out to all you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm so happy that I was at the game to see that. I mean, I think it was one of the most beautiful things I've seen in sports. And I've watched a lot of basketball games, and I mean, it was literally one of the most beautiful things in sports. Him running up there. I mean, I think I watched the clip 15 or 16 times, and I was bawling my eyes out like a baby.
Yeah.
So it's too bad. No clue on if he's going to play. Oakland's being real vague on if he's going to play or not. I know he's in California right now, so that's something to watch through the next few days.
Yeah, I would probably be guessing he's probably not going to be back for the entire tournament. I mean, he's obviously got way more on his plate right now than anything else.
I wouldn't be. I wouldn't. Not playing, I wouldn't blame him for playing. It's really, up to the kid. It's up to Max himself. If he wants to play, he can. If he doesn't, he doesn't have to. So, I mean, he could make threes from California if he needs to. So
that's true.
Yeah, he'll probably just
shoot
all his threes from LA.
There you go. So, but back again to the games we play, and we played a lot of them this weekend. First two rounds are in the books, and the top four seeds remain. Jimmy, unfortunately, you and I have something in common. Green Bay beat both of our teams.
Yeah, this week it was tough. It's so hard to come in to a season like this with the high expectations we had, and usually I like coming in saying that I don't expect Milwaukee to do very well, but I saw the roster coming into the season. I saw that we were deeper at guard than we've probably ever been. Actually, we've really, truly ever been. And unfortunately, I kind of turn a blind eye to the fact that after Panoski and Tybee, we were extremely thin on the front line. Scotty Tyler never got traction, and the Paul twins haven't developed to the point where they were, Jeter felt like he could put them out there for more than a few minutes at a time. So the front court was definitely lacking this season, and it showed tonight. Once Panoski fouled out, that was when Green Bay pulled away. It's a tough way to end a Horizon League career. I really hope that this isn't the end for Tybee and Panoski. I'd like to see these guys. I'd like to see these guys and J.R. Lyle, although I'm not sure if he'll be able to. Shoulder injury. I'm not sure if they'll be able to play in the postseason. I'd like to say that we go to the CBI or CIT or this new Vegas 16, but I'm just not sure. As for Green Bay, Link Darner has brought about. He has really brought about a big advancement of Carrington Love's game, and it showed. He is a much better player, in this week than he has been, or this season than he was before. And it wasn't just because he was now outside of Sykes' shadow. He really embraced Darner's system, and the good thing is that Faust really fit. Faust could really work within Darner's system too. So Green Bay is a hell of a team, and I do feel good for those two guys specifically, Faust and Love, because they are definitely they are friends with a lot of our players. I've seen them plenty of times down on campus during the years that they've been there, and I know that 2014 stung quite a bit for those two guys. So for them to kind of have a bit of closure with that by knocking us out this year, I feel good for them there on that. I wish them all the best of luck with Valpo. Tomorrow, I should say today. I don't know when this podcast will get posted. This is Sunday night about 7:30 our time. So it's tough for us on our side, but every season ends in a loss, as Kyle Welliston always said. So it's unfortunate, but you try and press forward. We have a lot of question marks. I know that some of the other teams have a lot of question marks moving forward. So I'm glad to know that we're not alone in sitting on the bench and watching the rest of the Motor City Madness.
Yeah, I will say this though, and I don't know if I've saw this any other time during the regular season, and maybe you have, but it seems to me that Green Bay really kind of ramped up the defense in these two games more than they had during the regular season. It just seems to me that that's the case. I mean, they and now, mind you, of course, you got a Cleveland State team that doesn't score very much anyway, but seems to me that they were a lot more active on the defensive front these first two rounds than they had been during the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, they are just the pressure that this RP40, this relentless pressure for 40 minutes. The pressure that they can put on teams really is an advantage. Winning 4 games in 4 nights, especially when one's going to be Valpo and the other is going to be either Oakland or Wright State, that's a pretty tall order. This is a transition year for Green Bay. So I think every Green Bay fan out there should be very happy that in what is supposed to be a down year for them in transition, they have still really turned it on, especially in the last few weeks, as you said. So I think there's plenty to be happy about, excited about for the future, and the future might be in the next couple of days. You never know if Green Bay can, finally beat Valpo. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year, and Valpo swept Green Bay in the regular season, but they needed a buzzer beater to beat them in Green Bay. So
that's true.
going to be chopping at the bit for that. And I don't think that Bryce Drew will ever have a team, get caught in a trap game in the conference tournament. But, it's not out of the question to see them Valpo maybe looking ahead a little bit and get caught, because Green Bay is one of those.
Sorry,
one of those teams
out, guys.
Yeah, it happens.
Something I was thinking about in the car ride home with Perry Farrell on the Free Press. Any chance you guys think Bryce Drew overthinks this because he's probably hopping on to greener pastures?
No.
No. Bryce Drew is going to stay there at that program until he wins.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit last week, last episode, because Jimmy and I had talked a little bit about the opportunities he's already passed up, and I don't see
this next opportunity is very large.
Yeah.
It depends on
if Louisville calls him, he's not going to drop everything.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but I don't think that Bryce Drew, who is in this incredible situation. I mean, we are talking about a guy who basically owns that town.
He does.
He is mayor for life. He is president of the campus for life. This is his home. But basically, and what I'm saying is not that he won't take that Louisville job should it open up, or another elite top 25 national program job that opens up. I'm not saying that he wouldn't take that. I'm saying that I don't think Bryce Drew's worried about that.
And he might not be, but to quote Kendrick Lamar, the Yams got a lot of power, and someone's throwing $2 or $3 million at a little kid from Mayberry. I think the kid from Mayberry, as much as he loves his hometown there, might have to take some money and run. I mean, his brother's making bank down.
Hasn't that already happened at least a couple of times already? I mean, Jimmy, we talked about it in Mississippi State. Didn't they want to throw a whole bunch of simoleons at him?
But they're not. But it's not Louisville. It's not the ACC. It's not Bryce Drew takes on Coach K and the loser Roy Williams. It's Duke in Carolina and Jim Boeheim in Syracuse, wherever the heck you say his name. I mean, it's Pitt. It's all those huge arenas. It's having a recruiting budget where he can go get the weird kids he wants and fly to Bosnia to go get them.
It's a difficult. It's going to be difficult for Valpo fans because it'll eventually happen. But if I know that Valpo people they're living in the now, and I don't.
They're an angry bunch too.
I don't think Bryce Drew is. Well, they're angry because. You've been in this conference for a long time. We can talk about the tournament in a minute, but with Bryce Drew, I don't think he's gonna leave until he gets what he wants, and that is winning in the NCAA tournament with that team. If that screws up and they don't get that this year, and then Louisville comes with a pile of money, I'm sure the guy will have to think a lot longer and a lot harder. But I don't think anybody's really worried about him. I don't think he's really worried about that next job. If somebody wants to come get him, they'll come get him. They're not going to worry about what he's doing with. He's not going to worry about does he have to think about it right now. Bryce Drew's not going to think about that. Bryce is going to. Everything he's doing right now is thinking about Green Bay. So I'm not. I don't think any.
Green Bay, and Green Bay again, as you mentioned, that. They had to beat at the buzzer when they went up to Green Bay, and this is a neutral site, so anything's possible. So it doesn't strike me as something that would happen that Bryce Drew would run into a trap game. Stranger things have happened though, but I don't think that's going to be. I really think he's going to have them. They're going to be rested. They're going to be prepared, and
it's
going to be good. But they also Tavon Walker is out. Okay.
Let me put it this way. I was told he's at 40%, has not practiced, and cannot run. That sounds a lot like out to me.
Yes, it does. Well, I didn't. Yeah, he was. Because I think when did he go out of the last game? And I don't even remember. To tell you the truth.
I have no clue.
So it doesn't surprise me that he's probably gonna be out for this game, and he's probably gonna be out for the championship game should they advance. So I would probably but at the same time, again, this is Valpo where you have so many people, you have so many players in that you have so many players that can kind of pick up the slack, if you will. So I think don't get me wrong. Obviously, losing Tavon Walker is pretty sizable. But if it was any other team, losing a Tavon Walker would be catastrophic. In the case of Valpo, it's manageable, I think.
I would agree. The other kid I was really impressed with today watching Green Bay was Charles Cooper. I didn't really catch on to him when they played Detroit in Detroit, but watching him today, he can jump, he can shoot the long ball, he's a slasher. He reminds me of a little Chris Jenkins.
Actually, the funny thing is, you bring up Chris Jenkins, and the first time I saw him play, that's who I thought of. I was like, this is a guy who's just all over the gym. He can jump with anybody, and oh, by the way, he shoots well. It's people talk at Green Bay. They're all about Khalil Small, but I think Charles Cooper is the guy for them in the future. I'm personally very impressed with him. Green Bay's got plenty to be happy about moving forward, and Link Darner is just going to pull a bunch of players that work with Cooper and work with Small and work in that system. So.
Yeah.
We're going to have to deal with Cooper for more time.
I think Link Darner's playing with loan money though right now. Those aren't his kids.
Yeah.
He's a D2 coach. I doubt he's going to recruit the same type of talent that Wardle curled, because Wardle has some guys on that team that are high major players. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would argue outside of Oakland and Milwaukee and Detroit, they're probably the third or fourth best recruiting school over the last 4 or 5 years. And a lot of it, I think, is Brian Wardle, and we're just going to have to see, because I haven't seen anything from Darner that says, hey, I'm a legitimate D1 coach. Right now, he looks like a very good X's and O's coach that's playing with house money. So,
I know that Green Bay, as a university, they don't have much money, but they know how to support a program in a myriad of other ways, and that's what
that mean? That sounds interesting.
They know how to support the program. They'll put on the steak fry. They'll put on different things. They don't have.
They fry the steak up there.
It's called a steak fry. They do it in the Lambeau Field atrium every year. It's a fun deal, but how do I say this? I don't want to say this with actually saying things.
You're trying to say they do improprieties without saying.
Be careful, Jimmy. Be careful.
They get good kids that we can't recruit. There are certain players that Wardle has recruited that we would recruit up until a certain point with them. So
I got you.
Yeah. So it's
okay.
It's kind of like how we didn't acquire Kay Felder. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So it's fine.
I'm completely lost here, so
we'll tell you after we go off.
We'll talk offline.
Thank you. That makes me feel loads better. Thank you.
Green Bay has a nice corporate sponsorship with Bellin Health, and their fans are very rabid fans, and the university supports the program. Link Darner walked into that campus, and on day one, he's able to do plenty of things, and I'm not talking about breaking rule things. I'm saying that he came in on campus, and the chancellor basically just lets him do what he needs to do to win. And I'm not talking about breaking rules. I'm saying, like, if he needs to go to the cafeteria to talk to students, he can go and talk to students in the cafeteria without having to worry about 1,000 feet of red tape to cut through to go there. Obviously, we're not just talking about going to the cafeteria to talk to a student, but like
fire the kids up and everything.
Yeah, Green Bay doesn't get in the way of their basketball program. The UWGB does everything it can to support its basketball program, is what I was trying to say.
Well, that's good, because we had Howard talk to one of our frat houses, and not to put Dan Leach on the spot, but in a lack of better words, Dan Leach had to do the firing up.
Howard Carrick?
His legal name is Howard.
Ray McCallum.
My displeasure with him by calling him by his legal name.
Okay,
I have been
just wanted to clarify that for those scoring at home.
Yes, no. From what I have been told, his legal name is Howard.
Yeah,
Where did you get away from that? That's weird. Oh, God. Okay.
I can call Junior right now and ask, but I really don't think a guy who just got waived wants to talk to a kid that he sat next to in like 5 classes. Yes. He is a free agent and I think he's still playing for the Bighorns right now. Not the Bighorns. Whoever San Antonio's Little League team is. He got waived last week.
They got a D-League team in Austin.
Yeah.
He's playing
him and Kiefer Sykes are currently teammates.
Oh, I was going to say, because isn't Sykes on that team too?
Yeah. The rumor around Detroit, the big rumor that like the Channel 7 and 2 and 4 people are saying is the McCallums together could possibly end up with the Pistons in the future.
Doing what?
They're both friends with Stan Van Gundy.
Yeah.
The master of panic.
I love Stan Van Gundy. He is my favorite Ron Jeremy lookalike.
Yeah.
He is weird. I went to the Ray McCallum and Stan Van Gundy Talk Hoops dinner fundraiser we had.
Yeah.
Because when you're student body president, they send you those things. Stan Van Gundy, he does not have a filter.
Every time I see Stan Van Gundy and think of him talking, I think of the one Chris Farley character, the motivational speaker who lives in a van down by the river.
He's not like that, but the man ate a lot at that reception. I mean, it was a strolling dinner, and he strolled to every food stop and ate, and was just raving about Andre Drummond with some alumni. And he seems like an interesting guy, but they both coached at Wisconsin together.
Yeah, I was going to say the funny thing is I've got we beat Wisconsin this year, and one of our fans.
Good thing that, aren't you, Jimmy?
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that. I still have the sign in my window for all the Badger fans with the score from December 9th. But you got a fan named Derek Kelly who is very much like a historian of the program. He has compiled every television game we've ever played, and we were watching the Badger game this year from the last time we beat them in 92, 93. And
I wasn't even born.
Seeing a young Ray McCallum senior.
Freshman year of college for me, thanks.
Like, oh, hey Ray! Like I saw him, and then I know that Stan Van Gundy was their head coach for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really funny to know that they were together in college. I think was Van Gundy's only college job.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Master of Terror, as some Detroit media call him, or they just quote what he said about building a wall. They sell shirts. The MGO blog people sell a Build a Wall shirt. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's his only job. He's an interesting character. The Pistons are an interesting team.
You think?
That whole franchise since Bill Davison died is a train wreck. It's just a train wreck. And their arena is built next to a huge landfill. And, well, they built the landfill next to the arena. The high school I work at is literally 4 minutes from there. It's weird. Everything is overpriced.
Do you want the Pistons to come into the new Red Wings arena?
No, I love the Palace.
Even though it's next to a landfill.
Yeah, no, the Palace is. I tell you what. Even for sports, I've seen football, hockey, the WNBA. I went when we were really good because the tickets were free. The Palace is one of the best venues you'll ever go to. It's awesome. It's great to see a concert at. The only issue is for people who live south of Detroit, it's like going to another state. For me, I'm from north of the city. I just got to drive 20 minutes west. But no, it's really nice. The Pistons and the Red Wings don't get along. That'll never happen.
Okay.
So
somebody had implied that on Twitter that this was about the Horizon League tournament was about also showing the Pistons that they could promote basketball, but
no, it's about showing the Big Ten that the Big Ten can have their tournament at the new arena. It has nothing to do with the Pistons or us.
That's what I've been
which
saying.
is what you alluded to, Jimmy, last episode.
I've alluded to and explicitly said.
You flat out said it.
I mean, is our associate commissioner not a former
Kind
Olympia
of yelled it,
entertainment
actually.
employee?
What were you saying, Karen?
Isn't one of our associate commissioners a former Olympia entertainment employee?
I did not know that.
I believe Julie.
Yeah, she's very close with the Olympia people. They all know her very well.
Oh?
I believe she's the one that's. I think she's the one, the associate commissioner. That's the former Olympia employee.
Well.
Oh. Okay.
That's
Moving
okay.
on. I did want to. The one thing I did want to talk about, obviously, was the Wright State win over Detroit today, but not so much the game itself, but the post-game press conference from Billy Donlin. Carrick.
Yeah.
You happened to be in the room and kind of got yelled at for it.
I did, and he apologized. He was very much grandstanding. He came in with his statement and was pissed off. And then he let JT and Grant talk, and he said on camera that I've told them if they say nice things, they get a steak dinner, and Yoho really likes steak, so he's going to say a lot of really nice things. And then when he was walking out afterwards, he looked at me and Perry Farrell. He was talking to Perry Farrell about some old 7-foot guy that shot really good bunny hoppers from like inside 10 feet. I don't know what his name is. It's way before my time. But then he turned to somebody, I think to his SID, and goes, "So where's the nearest steak restaurant?" So he wasn't kidding.
I'm sure he wasn't.
He's probably going to Granite City, which is a brewery steak type deal in the Marriott. But he was angry. He's angry his kids didn't get on the All Horizon League team. He's angry about the double bye, which I totally understand. He should be angry. The format's ridiculous. And it's only going to get worse next year, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But yeah, he was really pissed off. He yelled at me because I guess he thought I have a vote, which I don't. And I'm probably even more relevant now that I'm graduating, or less relevant rather, now that I'm graduating. But he grandstanded for a good 15 minutes, like not a lot of questions, just Billy Donlin yelling. And he blamed all the media. It's the media's fault, and then it's the league's fault. And he hates the league, I guess, from what I gathered. And he goes, "Let me tell you, this tournament's been wonderful. The hotels, the arena, the food, everything's wonderful. The format sucks." He goes, "It's horrible. My kids don't deserve this. It's not." The biggest thing I took away from what he said is it's not good for the student athletes. The double bye is not fair or good for the student athletes.
He was talking about that. He was talking about he mentioned like winning 2 4-game tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's right. I mean, the double bye, and I will limit this rant just because I don't want anybody to. I think we've heard me get angry about this tournament more than enough, especially since we're in the middle of it now. But the double bye made sense. The reason for it was to protect the top seeds, and it succeeded, and it put the best teams in the tournament, and whatever. And changing the format to a neutral site where you have 4-game, you have everything done in back-to-back days, eliminates. It moves things in a totally opposite direction. Number one, you give the 2 teams with the double bye an incredible advantage. You're moving from what was an advantage of having your first game in 6 days versus a team that was playing their third game in 5 days and second in back-to-back nights. to all of a sudden you're having you're playing your first game in 7 days or 8 days, and the other team is playing its third game in 3 days. And that's only that that semifinal. If you make it to the final against a team that beats the other double bye opponent, and you're playing somebody who's playing their fourth game in 4 days. So the double bye worked in the previous format, and in this scenario, it goes completely in the opposite direction. In that Oakland and Valpo have this incredible advantage over Wright State and Green Bay tomorrow night.
Oakland actually more so, if I'm not mistaken, they actually have 2 extra days because their last game was on the Friday. Was on the Friday before, because they played the Friday the last game of the weekend of the regular season, and Valpo played on the Sunday. So they got so Oakland has 2 extra days on top of that.
That's a scheduling thing. I mean, was Oakland predicted to be number 2? Yeah, but we've gone over this before. Scheduling a conference schedule is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And the guys in the Horizon League office, sure it is, because you have to work with. Not everybody owns their arena. You know what I'm saying?
You know what?
A lot of us have. Well, yeah, we definitely do need to move to where everybody owns their own arena, but scheduling can be difficult. I'm just saying. So it's not. I would like to
arena?
see. The Wisconsin Center District owns Panther Arena.
Is that to where the Bucks play?
No, the Bucks play across the street in the Bradley Center, which recently was a couple of years ago. The naming rights were bought by BMO Harris Bank, so it's now the BMO Harris Bradley Center. Our arena was built in 1954. Oh. Fun fact I learned today. I didn't know this in 11 years that I've been going to the games, minus 2012-13, when we were on campus. I didn't know that our arena, when it was built as the Milwaukee Arena in '54, I didn't know that the Milwaukee Arena was the first arena that was built specifically for television cameras. Yeah, it was the first one that was built specifically to allow for television camera setup as well as TV television production studio inside the arena. That was shared with me by Chad Knodel, one of our very good friends. We were talking about how the arena doesn't recognize its history. It was the Bucks arena. It was originally the Milwaukee Hawks arena before they moved to Atlanta. Oh. And then when the Bucks started, they moved in there. It was Marquette's home arena for quite a long time. And then in the late 80s, when the Bradley Center was built, that was when the Bucks and Marquette moved over there. It was a home of obviously Kareem's title team from '71, Marquette's '77 national title team. There's a lot of crazy history from a lot of different ways in that building. Obviously, it's been our home since 2003-04, except for the 2012-13 season when our wonderful shadow athletic director John LaCrone, Andy Geiger, forced us back on campus for a year.
How big's your arena on campus?
The Kalachi Center was built in the 70s. They say that the capacity is about 3,500. Its actual seating is about 2,500. It's a pull-out bleacher gym.
So it's open.
No, because Oakland's arena is built to be an arena. Probably the closest thing the Horizon League has, I would point to Cleveland State's Woodling Gym that your volleyball team and wrestling plays in. Yes. At Cleveland State, and then it's not like Callahan. Callahan was built as an arena. The Kalachi Center is basically
it was built for the military.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
The military were there until the 80s. Yeah, there was arms and stuff in the basement.
I'm sorry, arms as in guns and stuff?
Guns and bombs and...
That's awesome.
No, that's why it was called. It was because it was like a World War I memorial, I guess. I could be wrong. We have a World War I memorial on campus. No one really talks about when we had ROTC and now we don't.
Yeah.
it's like a big, like even if I bring it up in meetings with like the board of trustees people and the dean of students, like they shut me up really quick.
Something I just want to like shove under the rug.
I don't know. Like when I got there in 2011, people would always joke that there was arms in the basement of Callahan, like still. And when they redid the basement for the new athletic training facility, which is gorgeous, I know they threw a lot of stuff out. So that'd be a part of U of D history to look at. But I definitely know the Army was there for a decent period of time. And
I'd call Callahan the Armory so quick. Like, wouldn't that just be the best nickname for that place? Called the Armory. Like, that's so cool. I love history, and it's interesting to see that we're not the only school that's arena totally ignores its own history. I mean, we've got like at our arena, we've had the Beatles have played there, Led Zeppelin, Elvis played there like 4 months before he died.
no.
We've had, I mean, pretty much every act, in the mid '80s and earlier, that was a top line act played there. Every musical act, even pro wrestling fans. So, are you guys familiar with pro wrestling at all?
I dabbled.
Okay, so Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes, that he crushes here inside.
Stone Cold was like a middling character in WWF, and then in 1996, Triple H had been booked to win King of the Ring, but then they had this like incident where two guys, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, were leaving WWF to go to WCW.
Oh yeah, that was part of the whole. That was part of the whole Outsiders thing, and then they went over, joined NWO, and then '96, I think it was, and I remember this because it was '96 because Triple H was doing that stupid Hunter Hearst Helmsley, that ridiculous, classical goofy gimmick of his, and it was so ridiculous. I remember because it was a house show in Cleveland, and it was. I mean, it was so laughable how that guy ended up getting into a position of power in the WWE remains a mystery.
Well, it's easy when you talk water.
Well, that's true. Plus, they did change. He probably lucked out in the fact that he kind of fell into. He was able to get that D-Generation X gimmick going. I mean, otherwise he'd just been.
I brought it up because at Madison Square Garden right before Nash and Hall left for WCW, they were I think they were the bad guys in WWF as Diesel and Razor Ramon, and Shawn Michaels and Triple H were both good guys, and there was a cage match, whatever, blah blah blah, and during the show, this was a house show, so it didn't have it in person, but. All four of them got in the middle of the ring and basically hugged it out because they were buddies and this was their last show together. It was in the middle of the show.
Was that?
Yeah, they call it they're called the Click was what they call it.
Yeah, well, the Click. I couldn't remember where that was.
So they call it the MSG incident basically in wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what happened was Nash and Hall leave. Shawn Michaels is too big to punish. It's a big no-no, breaking character, obviously, in pro wrestling. Shawn Michaels, it's a big no-no. So Vince McMahon basically punishes this Triple H, who is still kind of like a mid-card, low-card character at the time. Triple H was very good in the ring, and the plan before that was to make him win King of the Ring, which was in Milwaukee, at our arena at what was then called the Mecca. After that, it was U.S. Cellular Arena. A couple of years ago, we bought the naming rights. So it was supposed to be Triple H. This incident happens. Triple H basically gets knocked down the card. They give it to Stone Cold Steve Austin within just a couple months difference. Stone Cold doesn't know it until the day it happens. So when back then the King of the Ring, you'd win and you'd give a speech. Mm-hmm. Well, Stone Cold wins it, goes to right where our student section used to be. When I was a student, the student section was on the south side of the floor. Goes to where the student section sits, where they have the throne set up, and he gives a speech which, wrestling fans is basically one of the biggest like promos ever, because it's the speech what they all refer to as the Austin 316 speech. This is where he tells Jake Roberts, you thump your Bible, blah blah blah, John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says I just whipped your ass, and the whole idea behind this is that Stone Cold's supposed to be a bad guy. He's supposed to be a bad guy, and Vince McMahon's doing the color commentating, and you can actually like watching the watching the promo, you hear Austin say that line, and the fans in the crowd who are supposed to be booing are like all of a sudden they're like, "Whoa, that was awesome!" And like you get like and people cheering it, and until that point, wrestling was exactly how it always is portrayed to be in other media. It's always portrayed to be this like Saturday morning cartoon, the good guy versus the bad guy. I'm American and I'm Russian, blah blah blah, and it was always something like that. And then Austin came in, and all of a sudden he's this anti-hero, and that kicked off what they call as their Attitude Era, quote unquote. The rest is history. But that's like, so that happened in our building, and for wrestling is a weird thing, and I it's a guilty pleasure of mine. This my friends and I are into it like a little bit, but I brought it up because it's another part of our history that this arena just doesn't pay attention to. And it was like one of the biggest moments in the history of an entire genre of fiction. This
right.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest moments ever. It's and we just have totally like our arena. If you go into our arena, you would have no idea that it was the home of one of the biggest moments of wrestling history. It hosted some of the greatest concerts of the greatest musical acts of the 20th century. You would never know that it had the 71 NBA champs or the 77 NCAA champs. This is a building that very much was quote unquote built, although it was almost 20 years later, by Kareem and Oscar Robertson. So it's funny to me to hear Carrick talk about how Callahan Hall has this like history that nobody talks about, because our arena has history nobody talks about. And I learned something today, that it was the first arena that was built specifically to handle television cameras. I thought that was very interesting.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know. I got about 5-10 minutes. I want to give you guys kind of my thoughts on being there, since I was there all weekend. Before I got to call Carlton Brunson, his brother, back because he tutors me in stats, and I got some stats homework to do tonight.
Yeah.
But I the one thing I noticed, and I just saw Conkville talking about it on Twitter, and it's very true. The Joe's a hellhole. It's always been a hellhole. My dad was visiting last night, and he said it was bad in 1977 when they built it.
Carrick, it's funny you mentioned that, because in the Gary Waters radio show before the tournament last Monday, they said the same thing. It's like both him and Cleveland State's play-by-play guy Al Pulaski are like, yeah, we're playing Joe Louis Arena for 2 years, and it's not a good arena. And they were not shy about it either, and I don't think anybody is, truth be told.
No, so that was one of his complaints. He wrote up a little. Pongfield wrote up a little thing and threw it up on Twitter. The other thing was he didn't know how to get in. There's a really like huge sets of stairs to get in. So I don't really know how to respond to that one. And there is the regular panhandler selling stuff. Welcome to Detroit. I'm used to it because I've lived in the city for most of the 5 years I've been in school. And the area by U of D is way worse than downtown by Joe Louis Arena by far. Yeah. If you've never heard an AK-47 go off at 2 a.m. and then them reload like 5 or 6 times, and no police at all, you haven't lived. So
I'm gonna go ahead and take your word for that.
Yeah. My freshman
should have invested in moat.
where the freshman dorms are.
Moat.
Like, where the freshman dorms are, we knocked down all the houses now. But 5 years ago, there was like a.
Hey, maybe that armory down in Callahan Hall might be doing use. It might be put to good use now.
We bought up all those houses and are slowly knocking them down. But back 5 years ago, it was a little projects, and things went down. Like one day, I looked out the window of my dorm, and one of the houses was just on fire. I mean, just completely on fire. No one doing anything about it.
I remember the first time that my friends and I went to Detroit for a game. This was, I think, it was 2009. So my buddy Jose was a freshman, and we went to the Detroit game. We stayed overnight in Kalamazoo because we just decided up to do it like really late at night. It was like 10 o'clock when we left Milwaukee. So like 2 in the morning, we stayed at Kalamazoo, and we drove into Detroit in the morning, and so we went straight to the game before we got we went to Ypsilanti, got a hotel, and then on our way in,
stay in Ypsilanti.
Yeah, on our
related.
Huh?
Was that a strip club related idea?
Oh, Jesus.
No. The buddy of mine went to EMU when he was in college for so he wanted to stay in Ypsilanti. So we were driving into town, and one of the guys that was with us works in construction, and on our way in, he was counting out numbers. He's like 1, 2, and we're like, "What are you doing?" And when he got to 52, we pulled into the Callahan Hall parking lot. We got past the gates and everything, and pulled into the lot, and he's like 52. We're like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, in our drive, like after we passed that big huge tire that's outside of town. He's like, after we passed the big tire, I counted 52 houses on our way from between there and the arena, where the porch or like the back porch or a balcony that he could tell from the freeway or from the street, he could tell that they were not up to code.
Oh yeah,
just from looking at it.
Okay. The area from the freeway to school is not nice.
Yeah, we were lucky to go there during the day.
Yeah. I don't mess around down there at night, but I wouldn't say that's not a part of Detroit People tour anyway. But what I liked about it was the seating, like on both sides of the court where they're playing, wasn't bad. It seemed to be a really big Detroit media presence, and it seemed like all the fans that were there were enjoying it. I know the Valpo people just hate it. It's icky. I know a lot of people in the Detroit media who seem to think that is a racist thing. Whether that's true or not, I'm not going to be the one to say. But a lot of the Detroit media we're talking about, they're like, it's because they're from Mayberry and they don't want to be around African-American folks.
Oh.
That was a pretty big sentiment. Anyone who was complaining, now some of the Detroit media I hang out with, that's generally their call to everything. I thought it was nice. The arena's nasty, but the Horizon League did a great job.
It's a temporary thing. The Red Wings play.
The new arena's going to be nice, and everything Olympia does is great. Now our game today was horrible. I guess our game plan from talking to people after the game was play good defense and don't let JT Yoho shoot. So I just take that with a grain of salt. I was really sad to see Carlton and Anton be done, especially if that's the end for both of them. Carlton's up in the air, but that's definitely Anton's last game.
Final record?
Bad, like 16 and 15. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. I mean, I don't even pay attention anymore. Ray letting Carlton sit on the bench for 6 minutes in the second half when he was the only one.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because that seemed kind of strange to me because you had a guy who started the game out pretty well and then all of a sudden he's sitting on the bench for an extended period of time. What was the thought process behind that exactly?
Good question, because about 6 people asked me that while it was happening. He's done that to CB a lot in the last 4 years, and I know Ray likes CB. He's known him since he was in high school. Him and Ray Jr. Actually, Ray Michael, because he's not junior. Played together in AAU, and they know each other real well. But it always seems like when Carleton makes a mistake, he gets in the doghouse immediately. But if Matt Grant or Gerard Williams make a mistake, they're allowed to do whatever they want. And that's what kind of spooked me yesterday when Matt Grant took his pants and warm-up off and went in the game. I was thinking Carleton's career is over regardless because he's going to let Matt do whatever he wants. But Matt actually played really good. The thing that killed us today was Chris Jenkins did not score in the tournament until there was 7 minutes left in the game today. He did not score in the first game against Youngstown, and he did not score until there's 7 minutes left. If Sideshow Bob Marley is not scoring, it's a bad time.
Congratulations, Jimmy! You have officially you've.
All I know, he's retweeted me on it, and he's hard.
Likes it. I know Chris pretty well. He's an odd man, so he probably enjoyed it. Chris is a horse of a different color.
He might join our alumni fantasy football league.
Really?
We gotta start talking to him. Yeah, we got my buddy Jose runs a fantasy football league that to this day Damian Ergel and there's like 3 or 4 guys. I'm not in the league because I wasn't running the student section. This is like from like 2000. This is like 2010 through like 2012, 2013. Like players from that era. There are a bunch of guys from the Horizon League that are in. Some players that are in a fantasy football league that my buddy Jose runs. And I know that Ergel's in it because Ergel and Jose talk trash to each other on Facebook all the time during the football season. And I'm trying to like, I wish that I see like Jenkins as a guy who would be like perfect for that. Because you can tell he's just a guy who doesn't take anything too seriously.
No, nothing.
Yeah.
He has the world's largest sock collection.
Really?
He never wears the same socks twice in a game.
So he's basically the anti-Matt Howard.
Yes.
Did you guys know that? Did you know Matt Howard wore the same socks like every single game?
Yeah. So,
that wouldn't really surprise me.
Yeah, Matt Howard seems to me to be like a guy who, like, when he's like eating cereal, he's thinking about basketball.
Yeah.
And when he's pulling on the same socks he wore yesterday, he's thinking about basketball. Yeah.
That whole Butler team was a bunch of different guys, let me tell you.
Do you think?
No, I thought the tournament was good. I enjoyed it. I really did not enjoy everyone's complaining about it. And people have reason to complain for multiple reasons. I get it. If I'm a Valpo fan, I'm upset. But some people were just complaining that Detroit is bad. No, it's not. If it was really that bad, I would not have stayed there for 5 years. I'm very middle class from the suburbs. I went to school in the middle of nowhere in the country. If it was that bad and made me uncomfortable, I would have got up and left. So other than that, I mean, I think people are going to grow to like it. They gotta make it different though, so everybody can get there.
I think I think the biggest issue is the fact that right now they've got the scheduling. They've got it the Saturday to the Tuesday.
I'm hearing here is Monday through Sunday.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Monday through Sunday, with the women's tournament and the men's tournament in the same place.
Really? Because that would be kind of a shift. Because the women's tournament is like literally one of the last ones, one of the last tournaments in women's college basketball. Because I know that they're doing that up in Green Bay in the next couple of weeks. So, but it's usually one of the last ones they do before the selection Monday, whatever the heck it is.
I'm confused about this Monday to Sunday.
I don't know how it's going to work. I was just told. Because everyone in the athletic department talks to me, and they forget that I'm media, I guess. But maybe they just don't care, is what I think part of it is. Because everyone knows if you tell me something, it's going to get out one way or another. But I guess, it's going to be like a week-long deal. I guess, are they going to buy a hotel and let everyone have a room for $10 a night? Otherwise, nobody's going to show up.
If they really want, like... I thought that we'd be. I thought what they'd do is switch to just move it up a couple days, and have today be the title game. Like have the Sunday before Selection Sunday be the championship.
Maybe that's the plan. Who knows? But I know it's staying. They're not going to abandon ship. They like it there, and the Detroit people, we like it there. And I know everybody can complain, but the first time anybody comes and does the whole thing, they're going to like it there. There's too much stuff to do right in downtown Detroit that's fairly inexpensive. I mean, you can eat at some of the best restaurants in the Midwest, and you're not going to break the bank with two people you can probably eat for $50. That doesn't happen most places. So
I made a few cracks early on about having it be in Detroit. For the record, when I went there with my friends, it was fine. I mean, we didn't feel 100% safe on the way out of the game, of the Red Wings game the night we went, but at the same time, that was the first time that I had been to Detroit. So it was as much unfamiliarity as it was, the reputation of the city. So I'm not worried about that. I know that the district that the Red Wings are going to have around the new arena is going to be really nice. I'm not worried about Detroit. For me, it was all the format. Like I felt like what we had was what was great. I felt like what we had was what kept Butler in the conference for as long as it was, because I know that I'm sure Bob knows this too. The MVC was sniffing around Butler as early as 2005.
Yeah.
I know that there were several. I know that the Atlantic 10 had been sniffing around them. I know that there were certain schools that are still in the conference that have looked elsewhere in the past.
Oh, I would say we're actively looking.
I know that in the past year, especially, that some of the schools were a couple of the schools are kind of like thinking of other conferences in a more proactive way. I was really encouraged yesterday by the attendance for the Detroit game, and I was encouraged today by the attendance at today's Detroit game. I know that if this is going to work for the next 4 years after this year, it's going to have to be better for us coming from out of town.
Yeah,
I'm different because Saturday is my big day of work during the week. I'm willing to take it off because I'm like you guys, I'm a diehard. But if they want casual fans and run-of-the-mill season ticket holders from schools to be willing to make that trip and not just have it be parents and friends and the real diehards that are willing to quit their jobs to go to these things, if they want that, they're going to have to make it almost like a Thursday through Sunday affair.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if that's the plan. Maybe I heard it wrong, or maybe they got their info wrong. They're very, from what I can tell from being on the ground, they want to make it work. Because I think having the tournament in Detroit is probably the only way you're keeping U of D if they get a new coach and get going. I mean, I already know we're not actually looking because we currently have no money because we're rebuilding our endowment, and we're just getting back on our feet, money-wise for building enrollment. But if U of D gets a different coach and they get going and they get to the postseason 3 or 4 years in a row, we're probably gone. And I would say if our alumni cough up enough money, we're probably gone to the MAAC until that happens. A lot of the old alumni legitimately hate playing state schools. It's a lot of them, and they're going to get mad at me for this. Most of those old guys, like I was telling Matt Dudek today when I gave him tickets because I'm a good rival, and instead of being evil when I had 4 extra tickets and ripping them up, I gave them to him. Fun fact, he's a very large man, and I am 5'7", and I am never going to openly talk shit to him again because he beat the hell out of me. He's a very big man. And I'm going to be as nice as pie to him now because I'm scared for my life if I were to ever really into him.
Every person who's ever is laughing right now because I'm 6'6" and 400 pounds. So is he bigger than me?
Yeah, but you're friendly. he was catfishing me for a year. He was actively trolling me for fun for a whole year. Like anytime if I tweeted something about Michigan football, he was calling my president of the university saying the student body president likes Michigan football. It was so just.
Oh, I remember that too. That was hilarious. I'm sorry, it really was. It's funny now.
Yeah, it is funny now that we buried the hatchet.
It's funny now, but it was funny to me then too. But I'm an ass.
Why? Well, because you're probably an Ohio State fan. That's why you find it funny.
I'm sorry. I do not own I'm sorry. I graduated from Cleveland State. Under no circumstances do I have Ohio State anywhere near my damn diploma.
Good for you.
Anyway.
So that was weird. But other than that, good time had by all. The Milwaukee fans are really good looking. And a lot of people were saying it. Like multiple writers came up to me and they're like, "Where did Milwaukee get all these young women at?" I'm like, I don't
Jesus.
know. I have no clue.
I will say this: I've probably been DM'd on Twitter by about 7 or 8 people this weekend about the manager, the brunette manager on our team.
She was not there. I did not see her.
Yeah, they were all asking where she was because they were like, "Where's the manager?" I don't know.
DM you.
Yeah, well, we got. I mean, we got.
By the way, guys.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you or anything, but I just saw the Oakland's YouTube. They did the Grizz Vision with Greg Campy. Apparently, it looks like he on that broadcast. It looks like Max Hooper is planning to be at semis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well then, so like I said, talking to Matt Dudek, he's either going to be really good or really bad.
But
probably
I think
between with Max Hooper tomorrow.
I think that the kid's a ball player, and to get to Division I without having just like LeBron kind of like gifts from God as far as like your natural ability, you have to have a certain level of drive to get to that level, and I am sure that that's why I wasn't surprised because Max Hooper is one of those kids that just lives in the gym in the middle of July when he could be outside having fun with people, and I'm sure he puts up 5,000 shots a day.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good semis because I gotta get to my stats. I think Oakland wins the whole thing, and I think Valpo gets an at-large via Oregon. I know
Really?
you think I'm crazy because of that, but I think
Jimmy would be one of those people because I think Jimmy's been on record for saying that they will not get an at-large.
I think it's crazy. I wish it's true. I really hope it's true because nothing helps us more than having multiple teams because if you have an at-large, that's one unit without having to play a game. So that's 1.5 million divided up 11 ways. 10 teams in the league, or excuse me, 12 ways. 10 teams in the league, and the winning team gets a second slice. That was what it used to be. I don't know if that's what it's going to be going forward, but that's 1.5 million split those ways over 6 years, and that's money that each of us need.
Yeah.
Carrick's just talking about how that university's, UDM is pulling itself, trying to rebuild its endowment. Bob, you guys have lots of problems. I know we have our athletic department has a big, somewhat fallacious debt, but
we don't have any problems. We have just students who apparently just want to spend $11 million every year just for nothing.
Your student body funds the athletic department more than any other student body does on a per student.
They do, as a matter of fact. It's just, which is ironic because now they're actually just bitching about the president moving back into a house as opposed to an apartment. Long story, don't want to get into it. I think it's just the most hilarious thing on the planet. They're bitching about that, but not the fact that they're shelling out $11 million for an athletic program they don't care about.
I bring those up because we all need money. We all have.
True.
All our departments need money, so it's something to think about when Butler's first year will be up next. I think it's next year we lose the 2010 Final Four stuff, and then so wait, hold on, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So the 2010 Final Four money is coming up this year, and the 2011 Final Four money will be done next year. Those are five units from each year. So back then both years were about $1 million per unit. So you're talking about $1 million over 6 years for the schools that were in the conference. So Oakland and Northern Kentucky don't get it. The rest of us do. So that's eight. That's like 8 or 9. If the Horizon, I think the Horizon League gets part of it. That's a lot of money, is what I'm saying. So
yes.
We need units.
But
we need
you know what can help with those units? Not making those bad teams not play the Little Sisters of the Poor. And I know, Jimmy, you get on it, but I mean, literally, even Valpo. Why are you playing 4 Division 2 and NAIA teams? Why is Detroit playing Central State? For God's sakes, at least play Wayne State.
I will say this. I used to be a guy who railed against the non-D1 games because when Rob Jeter took over here, Bruce Pearl was always a guy who would play low major teams like Prairie View A&M, Elkhorn State, teams like that. Whereas Rob Jeter would replace those games with like we play Parkside from our state. Some other Division II school. Sometimes we'll play like an NAIA school in a regular season game, and our fans hate it because they buy season tickets. So I used to rail against it, but the RPI is very important for the selection committee. It's very flawed. We all know this. I think we all agree that at least the KenPom ratings and probably more ratings are better, better ways to judge a team. But the selection committee uses it. And playing a team that's 350 in the RPI hurts your RPI considerably. The example I always use is from the 05-06 season. It was Rob Jeter's first year.
Was that the torture porn year?
No, that was the next season when we lost all of our players. Are you talking about my Twitter profile?
Yes.
Okay. That was the 06, 9, and 22 season. But in 05-06, we were 42 in the RPI. We played Youngstown State at home in a late season game, beat them by 40. It was I believe the score was 98-58. The only reason I remember the score is because if we scored 100, everybody got free meals from Popeyes, and Miles McKay missed Miles McKay missed like 2 shots in the last minute and became like the dog on campus for a week. But what I bring it up because we were 42, we beat them by 40, and we woke up the next morning as like 72 in the RPI. That's the problem.
Then what is Youngstown and UIC doing to be that bad in the RPI? Who are they playing?
They're doing stuff. Youngstown is about to re-up somebody. I don't think Slocum's the problem. I think Youngstown's problems are infrastructure. I don't want to get into Youngstown.
And we've talked about it a lot anyway, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a few more in upcoming episodes. So, Carrick, I know you're kind of running up against it. So, I think at this point in time we'll just kind of wrap up this week. Next week, obviously, Selection Sunday, and we'll get into all that, and we'll see who the eventual champion is at this at Motor City Madness here. Carrick, again, thank you for joining us on this podcast. And again, guys, his assessment is going to be on CampusPressBox.com this week.
Good luck to the 4 teams left. I want to say that.
Absolutely.
None of us are in it.
All right.
The last 4 teams, make it good. Entertain us.
Are you not entertained? All right, we'll see you guys next week.